Welcome, everyone, to today's information session for the Master of Science in Healthcare Leadership, a master's program offered by Brown University. It's sponsored by the School of Professional Studies jointly with our School of Public Health here at Brown. Today's session is a deep dive on the curriculum for the program and our capstone requirement, the Critical Challenge Project. So thank you very much for joining today. I'm Sandi Ferretti. I'm the Program Director for this Master of Science in Healthcare Leadership. I have a similar type of degree, a Master's of Health Services Administration, and spent about 20 years working in the healthcare field, so have a good background and knowledge of what is required for the degree, as well as have been around the program for the last 10 years. So know the students who have gone through the program and can answer just about any question about the program. So again, thank you for joining, and we will do a question and answer period at the end, but while I'm reviewing information, feel free to use that Q&A function on your Zoom menu to enter in questions as we go along, so that you don't lose track of them, and they are ready and queued up for when we hit the Q&A portion. So thank you for that. Today we're going to cover the program structure, do a little bit of in-depth on the curriculum, the Critical Challenge Project, that capstone project that I mentioned, and then we'll review the application requirements for the program and do live Q&A. So just as a side note, this picture is not a stock picture. These are actual MHL students. So let's start with the program structure. The Master of Science in Healthcare Leadership is really designed to take the best of academic content to really drive strategic decision makers. So you all want healthcare background and information, business skills and requirements for leading in organizations, and leadership training development to create the best you can be and to create growth in your own knowledge, skills, and ability to advance in your careers. So let's talk in detail about the curriculum. There are two opportunities to start the program. You can start in the summer term or in the fall term. The dark boxes are classes that happen in a hybrid manner, and that means that some of the coursework is presented in person while you are in one of our residential sessions here at Brown, and the remainder of the coursework is online. The courses with a light background, the white background here, are fully online courses, and we'll get to the two other colors in a moment. So let's talk in detail. You can start in the summer or in the fall. The fall term starts with our 4 full credit courses that really form the foundation of content needed for leadership positions in healthcare. First is healthcare policy, and that's a foundational course in regard to what both history as well as the current environment shaping healthcare policy in the United States today and beyond. Covers international health systems as well, but really focuses on the types, what is healthcare policy and how do organizations and governments make choices about healthcare policy. So gives you insight into the decision-making process and gives you an opportunity to practice some of that thinking. Also in the fall term is our strategic planning course, and that is both aimed at strategic planning process itself and how to organize it, as well as the basis for implementation. It's one thing to create a strategic plan, and it's another to think about how is that going to be implemented and executed on. In the spring term, we also have 2 full credit courses, our healthcare finance course and our leadership and workforce development course. The healthcare finance course assumes a bit of prior knowledge with regard to some basic accounting and finance concepts, and is really aimed at understanding the profit cycles in healthcare amongst the different industry sectors. So it helps to understand the financial motivations driving number of the different sectors like delivery settings, pharma, um, pharmacy benefit managers, and health insurers, and gives you the process thinking for how those organizations approach financial decision making and challenges. And so will help you organize your thinking around what is necessary to know in regard to and analyze in regard to financial information that you come across in a leadership role. Next is leadership and workforce development, and that is focused as one of our two leadership courses focused on leadership in organizations. So, what does team leadership look like? What is groupthink? What is how do you break those things up? As well as workforce development and retention issues, negotiation strategies, things like that. All right, so let's talk about the half credit courses. If I can get my little arrows to come up, there we go. So these blue diamonds represent the half credit courses. All of our classes, even if it doesn't have healthcare in the title, are healthcare focused. So if you're talking about strategic planning, you're talking about strategic planning in healthcare. So the things that are unique to healthcare are addressed in each of the courses. Um, as differentiated from, say, an MBA program where you might get a marketing course, but you're talking about marketing a product such as a new blouse or sweater. We're really talking marketing in regards to healthcare services and products. So for the summer term, we have 4 half credit courses: healthcare marketing, health economics, health law, and quality improvement and the learning organization. And each of these courses provides some specific insight into healthcare related topics that help you understand how choices are made and how information that will be valuable to you as you move forward strategically in organizations. So that could be marketing, that could be law and regulation, and the ways that that drives decision making and change, as well as quality improvement and how quality improvement activities can drive change in organizations. All of this curriculum is supported by 2 additional courses that occur throughout the program. First is our critical challenge project, our capstone requirement, and that's an opportunity for you to apply the knowledge and skills that you are learning in the program to a critical challenge of your choosing. And I'm going to go into that in a little more detail in just a moment. But I want to focus also on our leadership and professional development curriculum that is also running throughout the program and provides you with individual leadership development as opposed to the organizational leadership course. The leadership and professional development course is really focused on your individual development. So you get things like a 360 review, where you get the opportunity to have feedback from folks around you, 360 degrees around you, as well as leadership coaching. You work on your own professional development plan, things like that, and work on some individual skill building and practice hands-on learning and activities around your own development. So that's the curriculum in a nutshell. Folks sometimes ask about the public health requirement, and that is an accreditation requirement and gives you some of the basics, foundations for public health. It's a non-credit requirement, takes about 20 hours of completely asynchronous work, and you can complete that at any time during once you are enrolled in the program. But it is a graduation requirement. All right, all of those incredible courses are taught by our amazing faculty. So Scott Rivkees is our academic director, and he oversees the academic content for the entire program. He is a pediatric endocrinologist by training, but also has spent many years in public health and leadership roles. So he has been at Brown for about 3 years and has overseen this program for about 2. So he's getting heavily involved in that. I usually highlight some of our amazing faculty, and I'd like to highlight some of our newer folks, or maybe not necessarily. On the top left here, we have John Kingsdale, and he is one of the 2 faculty with John and Marie Ganem, who teach our healthcare policy course. And John comes to us with significant experience. He set up the Massachusetts Connector, which was the precursor to the Affordable Care Act and the health insurance exchanges. So what's key about the example of John and his experience is that all our faculty bring real world experience and work that they have done in the healthcare sector to the classroom. So they have insight that they can use to really assist you in dealing with your own challenges in the workforce and providing the content in a way that is useful for you to apply and take directly back to work. Similarly, down on the bottom right is John Park. He is a vice president at Amgen, and he works in sort of commercial development, and he is in charge of our healthcare marketing class. So he brings that real world pharma marketing experience to the classroom, and students really appreciate his insight. Lastly, I want to focus on a couple of our new faculty. We have here on the bottom left is Tyler Ray, and Ativ Mehrotra here is kind of in the middle. And both of these folks are teaching our digital health innovation and AI in healthcare class. Both bring significant experience working both on digital health innovation in terms of innovative products and thinking through the AI implications for healthcare products and delivery. So Dr. Mehrotra is also the chair of the Health Services Policy and Practice Department at Brown, as well as being a clinician, so an entrepreneur, so brings in some really valuable real-world experience. And lastly, I'll highlight some folks in the middle here. On the top, the 4th from the left is Brian Belsky, and the 4th on the bottom, 4th from the right, is Tony Klapsis. Both are joining us this year as our finance instructors and bring significant real-world experience to the finance conversation from the perspective of having been in the workforce. Tony spent a significant amount of time at CVS and oversaw the merger with Aetna. Brian, relatedly, also spends a significant amount of his time evaluating companies and looking at healthcare investments from a finance perspective. So really bring that real world experience to the classroom. All right, that should give you, and all of these folks bring some amazing experience and knowledge to the classroom, but that highlights a few of them. So let's focus a bit on the Critical Challenge Project. So what is this? This is a capstone requirement, so it happens throughout the program. You are working on this project. And really what we want this to be is an applied project. So we want you to pick something that is relevant to you, either to your interests or to your current work environment. It allows you to integrate all of the knowledge that you are receiving across the program. So how do economics and law and regulation fit in with the financial implications of a project you're considering? We want it to be effective, so we're looking for you to have realistic projects that will allow you to take them forward out into the world. Many critical challenge projects get implemented after the program. And lastly, it's a collaborative effort. So you're the CEO of the project, but you have the opportunity to collaborate with faculty, with peers, with our network of alumni and other friends of the program who bring a variety of expertise to the program and help support you in your endeavors. So as I said, this is a challenge that you identify. We really find that it is far better for students to identify the project than for us to give you a list of possible things to work on um, uh, or to just tell you what they are, what your project is. If you select something that you care about, that you are invested in, that we find those to be the most meaningful to students, and they tend to be the ones that go out into the world and make them happen. It's intended to be a practical application. So if you're learning about quality improvement, you need to think about measurement and improvement and things like that in the project that you plan to develop and implement. It's also, as I mentioned, collaborative. This is your opportunity to work with peers across sectors, professional colleagues, faculty, advisors, as well as fellow alumni of the program. So one thing we ask you to do when you apply to the program is to think about what this capstone topic might be and give us your initial thoughts on what that critical challenge is that you would like to work on. So these are the 4 points that we ask you to cover in your application. So we want you to think about, based on your experience or vision for the future, what are the complexity and challenges of the problem in the current environment? What are technical, organizational, and social barriers and constraints? What specific work you anticipate completing while you're a student at Brown that will advance solutions to the problem? And deliverables for your project besides a report, if any. So, for example, if you anticipate starting a business, there's a number of deliverables for the Critical Challenge project, but you might have a strategic plan and financial statements to be proposed to investors as a result of the program. We want you to have something that you can walk away from the program with and take out and implement. So here are some sample projects. One is the use of telemedicine to increase access to healthcare for residents of the Bahamas. This student was a gastroenterologist in the United States, actually still is, and but she was originally from the Bahamas. And the Bahamas had a significant hurricane that destroyed much of the island's infrastructure. And this was before telemedicine was widely used and accepted. And so she proposed to the government that they implement telemedicine as a way to provide access to healthcare for folks who are in what the Bahamians call their out islands. It's sort of the difference between rural and urban healthcare centers. And so she put all of the pieces together, identified all of the things that would need to happen, developed a plan, developed a proposal, developed the financial requirements to execute such a suggestion, and presented that to the Prime Minister and Secretary of Health for the Bahamas for her final project, and it was accepted. So pretty exciting stuff. So you just never know what the outcome might be for your projects. At the other end of the spectrum, we had a student who was working with homeless populations in the San Francisco area and really felt that it was important to, while the homeless would come in person to their clinics, um, felt that it was essential to start to bring those primary care services to them where they are and where they're most comfortable. So he ran a pilot program with the San Francisco Fire Department to take some clinicians out into the field and run a test in terms of providing care to the homeless population where they are. So also real exciting project. Was examined by the city of San Francisco for further funding and further identification of supporting the needs of the unhoused in San Francisco. Um, and then finally, I'll talk about the example achieving workforce retention in the healthcare system post-pandemic. So this is a large healthcare system in the Mid-Atlantic region, and this student focused on, they noticed a particular concern with retention, particularly post-pandemic. And so they wanted to really look at their policies and systems for how benefits are parlayed to employees. So they wanted to take a much more targeted approach for meeting people where they are and the types of needs that they have and the types of benefit structure that will be most meaningful to them. So someone who is early career, let's say with a young family, is interested in some flexible work schedules, the ability for childcare, those types of things, whereas people who are later in their careers want different types of benefits. And so this student was able to put together a comprehensive plan and system that would address these a variety of different types of employee needs. And this was successfully implemented at her organization and had significant impact on workforce retention. So that's just some examples. We have lots of them. So if there's a specific area that you're interested in terms of, gee, what have students in pharma done, or what have students in this other industry done, happy to address those. All right, so let's talk a little bit about value and impact of the program. So while on the left-hand side, this is what we talk about in regard to our website and the sort of key outcomes that we are looking for in our students. I think it's more relevant for you to hear what students tell us that they really value about the program. And I hear this from them during the residential sessions and afterwards, as well as you're welcome to join us for one of our alumni information sessions where you can hear these types of themes directly from them. So what do students tell us that they value? I hear three different themes. First is the ability to learn from a wide variety of peers. We really aim to get folks who are geographically diverse, industry diverse, point in their career diverse, from early career to later career, so that you really are learning from a wide variety of peers. And they really appreciate that insight and value what everyone brings to the classroom. The second theme that I hear is this focus on applied learning from day one. Folks come to that first residential session and get engaged in the work and the classes, and they tell me, I can't wait to go back to the office and start to implement what I've learned here at Brown. And so that remains true throughout the program, and they continually hear how much they value and appreciate that focus. And lastly is our emphasis on leadership development. Students really value this opportunity to take this educational journey and experience as a time when they can work on themselves and their own leadership development. And we focus our curriculum in a way that allows you to practice those leadership skills and work on them and identify and track and target your own personal development. And students really value that about the program. All right, so who are our students? They're folks who want to connect and collaborate with that diverse cohort of peers, both in person and online. This is a hybrid program. That's what we mean by in person and online. There are 3 face-to-face residential sessions that last 1 week in time, and then the remainder of the semester is online learning back at home, back to your regular work and other obligations. And we work really hard to make sure that the balance is there in terms of we know that you are fully employed and engaged in lots of other things in your life as well as school. So try to make things um, available and cater to your work-life demands. So that's the low residency part in that there are 3 weeks over the course of a 1 year period where you are required to be in Providence. And lastly, things that are really appealing for our students is asynchronous learning. That means that you can participate and you can plan and address and complete assignments when it works best for you. There's no requirement that at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays you must be in class and have this synchronous learning environment. There are lots of weekly optional opportunities for you to continue to engage with your classmates in a sort of live setting, but they are not required and they are always recorded and available to you. So that's important. And in terms of the ways that our variety of diverse students handle their work requirements and finding ways to complete the program at times that work best for you. Some students do all their work on the weekend. Some students do it during the midnight shift when they are in the hospital. Just depends on what works for you. And we aim to design the program in a way that allows you to complete the coursework in a time that works for you. So that is that component. So let's quickly go through the application requirements and the application process so that you have a good sense of what we're looking for. We're looking for folks who have significant experience in the healthcare industry, at least 2 years, with preference for folks who have had some leadership roles or responsibilities. They're folks who really want to broaden their knowledge, skills, and perspective to enable their career growth and industry impact. They're people who want to make a difference. They want to engage and expand their network, both with experts and peers from across healthcare sectors, and they really need that flexible format. They're not folks who are going to take a year off from work to complete a program. That's a difficult thing in today's environment. So let's hear a little bit more about the classes. The map up here gives you a sense of the geographic diversity across the United States. We are also seeing increasing number of international students join the cohort. So we have had folks from Japan, from Turkey, from several countries in Africa, from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. So really bring an international flavor to our student cohorts. So on average, each intake, either summer or fall, ranges from about 30 to 40. Generally, each intake represents about 15 different geographic states. So you're engaged with folks who are in healthcare across the United States in different ways. We aim for about a 50-50 men to women ratio. About 2/3 already hold an advanced degree when they enter the program. It is not a requirement that you hold an advanced degree. The requirement is a bachelor's degree, but many students hold an MBA, an MD, a variety of other types of clinical degrees like respiratory therapy or physical therapy, CRNAs, a wide variety of different types of degrees. We've had folks who have law degrees and then come to get the healthcare knowledge that they're looking for. We have about approaching 50% students of color in the program, and we find that's really important for folks to be able to learn from a diverse perspectives. And on average, they have 8 to 10 years of work experience. Again, that's not a requirement, but in general, when we look at our classes and the folks who join us, they have about 8 to 10 years of work experience. Some have significantly less and some have significantly more. All right, so there are 6 requirements to apply to the program. First is the application form, which is really the demographic information. and the $200 application fee. If you're attending this session live, you will automatically have that $200 application fee waived. And there's nothing you have to do about it. We're able to track who has been in attendance, and when you start your application, when you go to submit your application, the fee will be waived. We ask for a personal statement of about 500 words that really talks about why you're interested in doing the program, what you hope to get out of it, and how you can enrich the experience of others in the classroom. We asked for that critical challenge project statement related to those 4 questions that I went over. We're really trying to get a sense of your thinking in terms of how you think about large-scale problems in healthcare. And I would emphasize, I get this question a lot, which is, once I submit this with my application, is that the one I have to do? And the answer is no. Lots of things change between when you're accepted to the program and when you start the program. So certainly that critical challenge project can and will change over the course of the program. So for the purposes of the application, we're really looking for your thought processes. We require 3 letters of recommendation, and we encourage you to, as soon as you start an application, to put those recommenders into the application portal as soon as you know who they are. We find that takes the longest to receive, and we can't move forward with an application until we have all the components of the program of the application, including those 3 letters of recommendation. So we need your resume or CV, and we also need official transcripts from undergraduate degrees and beyond. So we are able to accept unofficial transcripts during the application process. Those are generally quicker and easier to obtain. Should you be accepted and choose to come to Brown, we will require the official transcripts to be submitted to Brown. We do not require any testing or test scores to be submitted as part of your application. The caveat there is some international students will have to submit some standardized testing regarding English proficiency. But other than that, we have no testing requirements. So just those 6 items, and that constitutes a complete application. So once an application is complete, it's reviewed, and eligible candidates are invited to a video admissions interview with myself and with our academic director, Dr. Rivkes. We meet regularly with the admissions committee to review those applications, and generally you receive a decision within 6 weeks. Generally much quicker than that. We use a rolling admissions process, so within 2 weeks, and generally you would receive your decision. If you would like to come to Brown, you will need to secure your spot with a $1,500 non-refundable deposit, and that deposit is applied towards your tuition. So it's not a deposit that then goes nowhere. It's a deposit that goes applied to your tuition moving forward. And any scholarship offer that we are able to make is communicated to you during when you receive that admission decision. And that's the whole process. So we do encourage folks to apply as early as they are ready to. We have one final deadline for the summer of 26, which is March 1st, which will come up rapidly here. We also have an additional incentive for folks who submit their applications by February 16th. We will guarantee, and they are then interviewed and accepted. We will offer a $10,000 scholarship. So we are trying to incentivize folks to make that final push to apply. But March 1st is the final deadline. For the fall enrollment period, we have a May 1st deadline and a June 1st deadline as the final deadline. But note that May 1st is the final deadline for international applicants. And both of these, the summer intake and the fall intake, would be the class of 2027. So we look forward to having you join us. So one final review of how the program works. I like this visual because it tells you, okay, if I am a summer start, I start in the summer, I have that in-residence session, and the remainder of the semester is online. I come again in the fall, and the remainder of that session is online. And then I come for the spring term in January, generally the very end of January into February, is that final residential session, and you finish the spring term and go directly to commencement. If you start in the fall, similar pattern applies, but you finish in the summer term, which means you wrap up the program in about August, and your degree would be conferred by the university in October of that year, and you would be invited to commencement ceremonies the following year. So that's how the timelines work. And just to reiterate, we have 3 residential sessions here in Providence. Enables you to meet your classmates and faculty and TAs in person, and you get to know them and work with them before going to the online space. We find that to be really valuable. The remainder of your coursework is delivered online. You participate in commencement traditions and are really considered a full member and participant of the Brown community. And we try to make sure in a number of different ways that you have opportunities to feel a part of the Brown community. Pictured here are the Van Wickle Gates, and this is an important area where ceremony takes place during commencement. When you join the program, you process into the gates, which is what's featured here, to commemorate the beginning of your educational journey. And then at commencement ceremonies, the gates swing outward and you process off campus to bring your knowledge and skills and talent out into the world. And then lastly, a reminder, it's a 1-year program, so it's accelerated Master of Science degree. So it's either May to May or August to August. So that is the highlights. So thank you for sticking with me through all of that information, and be happy to answer any questions that folks have at this time. I'm joined by Emma, who's been keeping track of the Q&A for us.
Yes, so just a reminder that if you have any questions, please submit them to the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. To get things started here, we have the question, what are the benefits of the hybrid program rather than an all online or all in-person program?
So we've selected this to be a hybrid program because we really find that the diversity of cohorts and the ability for you to get to know one another and your faculty in person before going online really enriches the online experience. So when you go to join those online discussions and participate with your team in an online format, that you already know those folks, you've spent time with them, you've met them, and have met the faculty, and that provides a much more rich and dynamic conversation in the online space. So that's why we've maintained this program as a hybrid program.
Thank you. The next question that came in, if you submit an application early for the fall, can it still be considered for the summer start?
Yes, we can switch as long as it's before it's the March 1st deadline. You can switch it to a summer start. Absolutely.
Thank you. The next question that I see here, will I need to sign on at a specific time each week to attend classes live?
No, there's no requirement that you attend live classes where instruction is happening. That's not a part of the design of the program. There are weekly office hours for each class, so that gives you the opportunity to continue to engage live with faculty, as well as sort of get any questions answered about what's happening during the week. You can submit questions ahead of time, but you can submit your question, but then you couldn't attend, but they're recorded. So the synchronous requirement we just don't have. But there are plenty of ways to continue to engage live with your classmates.
Thank you. Another question that I see here, is the course schedule compatible with a 9 to 5 work schedule or a healthcare work schedule?
So we really designed the program to have a predictable cadence so that you know when assignments and work are due, and you can arrange your work life patterns in any way that makes sense for you. So we have had folks who are trauma surgeons who are on call. We have had folks who work 9 to 5. We have had a sort of whole variety of different types of folks with different work requirements, and they've all been able to be successful because of that predictable schedule of when the coursework is due.
Thank you. If your role doesn't have direct reports but works cross-functionally with leadership, excuse me, are you able to use them as a letter of recommendation?
Could you repeat that for me? I didn't catch the first part.
Mhm. If your role doesn't have direct reports but works cross-functionally with leadership, are you able to use them as a letter of recommendation?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next question here. How have you seen graduates utilize the degree to move up within their company or transition to new roles?
So I would recommend that you check out our information session that we have on return on investment because folks have seen real significant advancement in their careers as a result of the program. We track students up to 3 years post graduation, and we see a whole variety of advancement, clinical folks advancing to department chairs, to chief medical officers. They make a switch to the pharma sector. That's the clinical realm. In the management realm, we've seen a whole wide variety of folks advance from managers to directors to vice presidents and beyond, as well as we have a number of alumni who are entrepreneurs and who start their own successful businesses.
Thank you. And I'm going to put a last call for questions out now. And I'm also going to drop the recording link for that last ROI session that we hosted in the chat. So stay tuned for that. But the last question that I'm seeing right now, um, are different aspects of the application weighted more heavily than others?
No, we take everything together holistically. So we look at your work experience, your academic background, your work background, and look at that in its entirety.
Thank you. And that, I think, is our last question.
All right. Something maybe just popped up in the. Oh, that was the ROI course. Very good. Perfect. All right. I want to say thank you for attending today. We've enjoyed having you here and look forward to seeing your applications to the MHL program here at Brown University. Stay connected with us. You're welcome to reach out to me or to professional@brown.edu, and we will certainly get you connected and answer any questions that you have about the program. Thanks again for joining today and have a wonderful day.